What is going on, guys? It's Lee Sanders here of the RCWR Show, coming at you with another fantastic album review. As this time around, we're taking a look at Soundgarden frontman Chris Cornell's Higher Truth album, which had came out on Friday, September 18th. Now, for those of you longtime Chris Cornell fans, I know there's probably a good majority of you all that might be on the fence of checking out this album. And I have to tell you, I understand where you're coming from, considering what had came about with Chris Cornell's last studio effort, which was 2009's Scream album, which a lot of people dubbed it the worst album that Chris Cornell has ever put out in his entire discography, let alone you sync up producer Timberland. And let me put it to you this way, for those of you that have not listened to the album yet, Chris Cornell's vocals on that particular album, it's drowned out by beatboxes, synthesizers. Try saying that 10 times fast. Basically, it had a R&B type of rap feel to the album, and a lot of people dubbed it as garbage. I actually thought it was a really great album, and just a little bit of a heads up for you guys, there is actually an album that's floating around of that album where you can listen to it in its entirety, like one big long track, as apparently the way Timberland and Chris Cornell originally envisioned the album, it was something like one long beat, if you will, like you're in a club and you know how the music just continues to go on. It blends into one another. You don't hear any pauses and all that. That was their original vision of the album. So for those of you that may be a little bit curious about that, if you look in the right places, you might be able to find that mix. If not, send me a private message. I'd be more than happy to help you out. So as long as I know you're not trying to sell copies, because look, I'm giving it to you for free. Don't be trying to make a profit off of it. But anyway, we're talking about Chris Cornell's new album, Higher Truth, follow-up to 2009's Scream. I gotta tell you, a fantastic album this go round. When I think about this album that Chris Cornell did with producer Brendan O'Brien, who should not be a stranger to you guys. He has produced a lot of albums for a lot of great bands, such as Stone Temple Pilots' first 5 albums from 1992 to 2001, 2006's Audioslave's Revelation, 2013's Lightning Bolt by Pearl Jam, or how about 2014's AC/DC's Rock or Bust, just to name a few. Definitely no stranger to Soundgarden, as he was a mixer for the Super Unknown album, in case you guys might have not known that. So definitely Brendan O'Brien, history with Chris Cornell, helping him out on this album, as this album was produced entirely by Brendan O'Brien and Chris Cornell. All the instruments performed by them. They did pretty much everything together on this album. And Chris Cornell this go round, he's finally found his niche, so to speak. You just look at his long career and then you just think about his solo album. Kind of seemed like for many of the albums that he had put out, he was trying very hard to find his identity as a solo artist. And you just go back to really where it all began, Euphoria Morning, and you're kind of like, this is a pleasantly warm, dramatic departure from what Cornell usually does. But it was very interesting. It was kind of like, maybe this is like a taste of things to come, so to speak. And he kind of carried that on with the 2007's Carry On album, but it just really kind of came off as if he was really trying to find himself as a solo artist. But each time he would put out a solo album, as far as the production work and everything, it just got better and better, and he was finding himself till he got to that point where when you come to Higher Truth, Cornell just all around, now at the age of 51, might not have the strongest voice as he used to as a young man back in his 20s, but he is finding more raw and powerful emotion with a vast majority of these songs that he sings on Higher Truth. Let me put it to you this way. This album is basically his James Taylor Sweet Baby James, or his James Taylor's Mudslide Slim in the Blue Horizon. It's his John Denver Wind Song album. It's his Neil Young's After the Gold Rush album, or Neil Young's Harvest album. It's his Band of Joy album with Robert Plant, or his Robert Plant Dreamland album. album, if you will. All of those albums that I just mentioned, they have one thing in common, which is folk, rock, a little bit of country rock. All of those combinations are on this album, Higher Truth, and hands down, it is a fantastic album. I checked out the deluxe edition of this, which I would highly encourage you all to check out. As the deluxe edition, it has a grand total of 15 tracks, really 14, because there's surprisingly only one track on the deluxe edition that is a repeat of a song that you heard previously. It's a remix. It's a remix version of Our Time in the Universe, and I gotta tell you, it sounded okay, but when you just think about the entire flow of the album, could have done without it. It would have been a great B-side for like a future project down the road, but I could have done without it. But I still would encourage you guys to check out the deluxe edition. Otherwise, you're gonna be gypping yourself big time. You'll be gypping yourself by, I'm looking at the album as we speak right now, you would be gypping yourself of 3 additional tracks if you did not check out the deluxe edition. So do yourself a favor. If you're gonna grab the album, just grab the deluxe edition. You know, every single song on here, my God, man, I really enjoyed every single track. There really isn't one particular track I can home in on, but if I were to go there, you remember how when Chris Cornell came out with You Know My Name for the Casino Royale soundtrack and all that, and then eventually that would be loaned out to his 2007's Carry On album? You know what? I gotta tell you, since that, I thought for Higher Truth, I have to go with, oh my God, it's like so many tracks on here, man, but I would have to go with Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart. Just the way that particular track opens up the album, I think lyrically it is the most strongest writing to date by Chris Cornell. It's like his all-time. It is right up there, I feel, in my personal opinion. This is just my opinion and my opinion alone, but I really feel that Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart is right up there with Arms Around Your Love, which I thought was another fantastic, well-written song with that. Just to give you guys an idea. If you haven't heard it yet, I'll provide a link for you guys to check it out in the episode description. But I love how pretty much everything kicks off with that particular track. Another standout track, Worried Moon, Through the Window, Josephine. I love Josephine. He is just professing his love to this woman named Josephine. And for those of you that's curious, no, he is not talking about a girlfriend or his wife, as that's not even his wife's name. Some of you may be thinking, well, is it maybe a kid's? No, it's not even a kid's name, but it's a really great track where he professes his love for this woman named Josephine and how much he wants to marry her, give the entire world to her, the stars, the rainbow, the universe, and all that. Really great track. Murderer of Blue Skies is another one. Self-titled track, Higher Truth, fantastic. Let Your Eyes Wander. Circling, I thought was really good. When it first began, it had a little bit of reminiscence, if you will. It reminded me of a previous song. I'm not really sure if it was maybe from Soundgarden or if it was from Audioslave, but when it first began, like, you guys will peep it out when you check out the album. Just be on the lookout. Like, the first 90 seconds, the way it kicks off, reminds you of a particular track that'll actually have you searching online to see if maybe this is something that he's done already, but to my knowledge, no, this was a brand new original song. Wrong Side, that is on the deluxe edition. That was another fantastic one. But I mean, every single track on this album I really enjoyed, and that's saying a lot from me because I am a huge Chris Cornell fan. But when I just rank his solo albums from least to favorite, I have to say, for Higher Truth, definitely it is my #1 favorite. And then just going backwards, I don't care what anybody says. I thought Scream was a really great experiment. To each its own, but I thought Scream was a really great experiment. I also had enjoyed 2007's Carry On. For me, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction as The Roads We Choose, a retrospective. Basically, it's a compilation with some great hidden gems that's on there, some nice acoustic versions of Like a Stone, Black Hole Sun, Original Fire, just to name a few. And least favorite would have to be his debut album, Euphoria Morning. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that is a bad album, especially when you compare that to Higher Truth. I'm not saying it's a bad album, but as far as my least favorite, I have to kind of put it at the bottom of the list. But all around, Higher Truth, a fantastic album. You know, Chris Cornell, he just always surprises me with each year that passes. 51 years of age now, and his vocals just seems to get stronger and stronger as the years go by. He might not be able to do what he used to do in his earlier years, but he's finding better ways to make use of his voice. I'm really happy that he's sober and he's cleaned up. He's been like that for many, many years now. Those of you that's looking for the whole dark gloom and Chris just screaming his lungs out and all that, you're not gonna find that on this album. I can tell you that off the break. This is one of those albums where it's just basically Chris Cornell, his acoustic guitar that's just pretty much dominating, and he's just letting loose. He's having fun. Like I said, to kick it off, this is basically a folk album, if you will. And he's pretty much following up on what he did with 2011's successful Songbook live album, which had accompanied a tour as well. So to really get a better idea of what you can expect for this new album, I would highly encourage you, if you haven't already, to go check out 2011's Songbook live album, and that'll give you a really good taste. But hey, as far as I'm concerned, look, great album. I gotta give it a respected 8 out of 10. Most strongest effort that he's put out to date. I can't wait to see this guy go on tour, to see how he does a good job, I'm hoping, in interpreting these songs live. I know he's supposed to be coming to my area, I believe in October or maybe November. So if I end up going, I'm going to try to do my best to go to that. I'll definitely let you guys know. I'll post photographs, do a review of the show and all that on a future episode of the RCWR Show. But in the meantime, I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of the new Chris Cornell Higher Truth album? Let me know and sound off. And if we get enough comments, we'll definitely follow up on what you all have to say on a future episode of the RCWR Show. It's our live radio podcast, which you can catch Tuesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com and on Mixler.com. All the links you need is in the episode description. And of course, if you cannot join us live, you can scoop up the episodes on various platforms such as iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. Good God almighty, we are all over the place. Just use the keywords, the RCWR Show. And of course, if it's your first time checking us out, love to have you subscribe so you never miss out on all the great content that we do for you here on a weekly basis. Whether we're doing reviews like what we're doing right now, really fun and insightful interviews, or breaking news, we have a little bit of something for everybody. And shout out to you artists out there that like to send me emails asking if I can maybe review your album. I cannot review your album if you do not provide me with some type of a free link or a download link where I can check out your entire album. Just a heads up, if you want me to review your stuff, you gotta go that extra mile and really try to do a better job in convincing me why I should check out your stuff rather than just send me a link. Don't let it look like a spam message, because if I can kind of tell that you're not really reaching out to me in a personal message, I'm just gonna mark it as spam and I'm gonna delete that. Just thought I'd put that out there because I've been noticing a lot as of late, past several months. I've been getting somewhat, I guess, spam messages is the best way I can put it, of people wanting me to check out their stuff. You got to do it a little better, but most importantly, make sure you have a downloadable link where I can check out your entire EP or LP. All right, guys, that is going to do it. And as always, if you have an album recommendation, let me know. Sound off. Follow me on Twitter at the RCWR Show. Facebook, Infinity One Productions. That's with an E. Spell out one, Infinity One Productions. Make sure you give this video a like, share it throughout social media, Google Plus it, retweet it. One of the many ways you can spread the good word about our content. Until next go round, wishing all of you all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. Once again, Chris Cornell, Higher Truth, gets a 8 out of 10. Go check it out. Make sure it's the deluxe edition. Adios.